Welcome to the Teacher's Pep Rally. If you missed our last episode with Coach Donnie Campbell, the teacher and coach who inspired Ted Lasso, please go back and check it out. Our guest today is visiting us for a second time. He is a high school ELA teacher who teaches literature and composition. He has a master's degree in teaching and learning. And get this, he was a consultant for the William Shakespeare Star Wars books. He's the creator and host of Coffee with Kenobi. We want to celebrate his 500th plus podcast episode and dedication to education. So grab your Mandalorian armor and favorite notebook. Please welcome to the Teacher's Pep Rally, our friend Dan Zehr.
Hello. Hey, thanks everybody. What a very kind introduction. Thank you so much. Man, and that was quite a guest to have to follow. I'd rather follow somebody like Lou Mangello. That'd be way easier.
Hey, we're just building it up, man. We're so excited to have you here. And I'm
thrilled to be back.
I just want to say, congratulations. I think it's at this point that we're recording, it's 501 episodes of the podcast, Coffee with Kenobi. So first of all, how does that feel? That is such an accomplishment.
It's really weird. It's really surreal to think about almost 9 years ago when we started our little show. I just never thought, I didn't really have a set idea of how long it would go. But when I look at the number, I guess it was about a month and a half ago, I said to my wife, I'm almost at 500. So I couldn't believe that. And the fact that it worked out so that my 500th was when I was on the Galactic Star Cruiser, I feel like that was just meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of serendipitous, right? It's
pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Maybe we should actually explain that, though. What is the Galactic Cruiser?
Yeah,
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, sir.
The Galactic Star Cruiser it just opened this week. It is Walt Disney World's newest resort experience. It's like a Star Wars hotel, but it's not a Star Wars hotel. Think of like gosh, how do I describe it? It's impossible. It's like, imagine a murder mystery, an escape room, a choose your own adventure book, and a full immersion into the world of Star Wars for 2 nights and 3 days. And that's what you have. It's a spectacular moment. I was able to bring my family. Disney hosted us there. And, we did lightsaber training. We got special access to things on Galaxy's Edge and Batuu. We had a lot of great food, hung out with a lot of really exciting people, and just got to spend some time together collaborating and solving puzzles. And it's pretty rare, to go to a place that's completely family friendly, and everybody of all ages and of all different levels of Star Wars fandom had the same amount of fun, albeit for different reasons. It was pretty extraordinary.
That's
awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah.
I know you covered so much of it on your Instagram channel, and I just have one question though.
Sure.
How big is it though? Like it's hard to you see everybody moving through these corridors and into the decks, but I guess if you were to compare it to a hotel motel setup, like is it up big, long? How is it?
I mean, the way that it's structured is you can't really tell, but I think it houses 1,000 people total, including cast members. But it's gigantic. Like the atrium, the main area is huge. We had the room is not massive, but it certainly does a job, and it's so creative and so incredibly laid out that it didn't really matter. So I never felt claustrophobic by any stretch of the imagination. It's very, very nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Would you recommend it for a class trip of 25 fifth graders?
I would, but it's a pretty hefty price tag.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah, so I mean, God bless you for finding that oil in the backyard.
I'm just putting it out in the universe.
I like it. You gotta do that.
Discount.
Yes.
Hey, here comes a big bus of children. Let us in.
That's right.
And we're not leaving till you let us in.
You can dress it up like a bunch of Jawas.
I like it.
So you kind of had me at Choose Your Own Adventure because I love those books as a kid. And when you talk about an experience, I'm thinking you're immersed in a story. Would you agree with that experience?
Absolutely. 100%.
So I'm thinking, got my ELA nerd glasses on, and I'm thinking about how I could use those kind of techniques or ideas in the classroom. Yeah, and you're an ELA teacher. So when we think about, let's take writing, for example, what are some things that maybe inspired you that you could kind of try to modify in the classroom to immerse your students in story?
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, there has to be, when you get off of the bus and get ready to walk into this experience, the first thing they tell you is get ready to play, get ready to have fun. Right. So that's, I think that's an important thing. Like as soon as your students walk into that room, it's time to put out your memories and your thoughts of the outside world. Let's focus on what we're doing right now. And let's enjoy the collective experience together, trying to discover new things. So to me, it's like, it's a mindset, it's an attitude. And I talked to one of the head of engineers, Scott Trowbridge, about this. And I said, the great thing about this is that you have created an experience where people who are introverted or extroverted want to participate because you created a culture where they feel comfortable. Right. And I think that's paramount to what we do as educators. You create an environment where they feel safe, where they feel respected and cared for, and that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. And it's also okay, by the way, to be successful and to be excellent and be awesome. Because that's to me, that's one of the biggest things that we tend to kind of forget about or kind of tend to put down, because it forces us to look into the mirror at ourselves. And if anything, it reinforced a belief and a mindset of embracing those things.
It's cool. So many thoughts, like about when, in terms of, like you said, making them feel comfortable. What do you do? And what do you do to make your students feel comfortable?
I think it's organic. I think the most important thing that I do is I'm just myself. Like I make mistakes, I own them. I encourage differences. I encourage different ways of thinking. They're not going to always feel the same way that I do about things. And I love that. I want that. I want to embrace that. When they're not sure about something, I try to facilitate an environment where it's a safe place to screw up. It's a safe place to make mistakes, so that we can work together to find that answer. They can talk to their peers around them to do the same exact thing. Because I feel like, once they realize, hey, I can be myself, I can let my guard down, then there's no anxiety, there's no tension. And then you can just kind of be, you make a couple of light jokes, but once that bell rings, it's bell to bell for me. But if you create an environment in such that they feel like they can be themselves, then I feel like that kind of happens. It sounds, yeah. I don't know. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. And I think we've had some other people echo some of those sentiments. But you're right. It's allowing them to understand that mistakes could be made. That's the big thing.
Yes.
And it's also important, I think, just like you just said, if you can just be yourself, and yes, be the authentic self and all that. That's where it really you can have a lot of fun. There's a lot of people that are apprehensive about that. So,
oh, absolutely. And like whatever we know how students are, whatever they're wearing or their shirts or their whatever they have on, you can tell what they like, what they're into. You find those are like the gateways, aren't they? Those are like the invitations to say, this is how you can get to know me. This is what I'm interested in. And you show an authentic interest. And if you don't know what it's about, then you ask about it, and then they tell you about it. And then all of a sudden that lets the guardrails go down, and then they can just be kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
I'm also hearing a little bit of, we're all going to support you or cheer you on no matter what. So even if you take the risk and it doesn't end up giving you the result that you wanted or that we were all looking for in the classroom, we're still going to be patting you on the back for giving it a try. We're going to do whatever we can to make sure that, if it's a misstep, that we help you to kind of learn. And I think that that's what Disney does a good job doing, especially in that kind of immersive experience where people are being called up or asked to participate in front of a bunch of people that they don't really know. So you're right. It does kind of remind me of the classroom, because I've been picked for some things at Disney, and it's exciting, but I get really nervous because I'm like, oh boy, all the attention's on me, right? I feel the pressure to be able to say or do whatever it is they're telling me to do right. And so it does kind of mimic that in a sense, but Disney does a great job of making sure everyone knows, hey, we're all in this together. Let's support this person, lift them up. It's not that
right. Oh, I agree. And on the Galactic Star Cruiser, before we got on, because Deanna my wife is not a Star Wars fan, but she likes all the fun things that we get to experience as a family and just how happy it makes me and my son. And she said, first thing she says, "Oh gosh, am I going to wreck this ship? Am I going to ruin this thing?" And then she found there's a card in Star Wars, in the world of Star Wars, there's a card game called Sabacc, which Star Wars fans know. What, Pete? What is Sabacc? Tell me.
Card game.
That's right. Who won Han Solo?
Han Solo and Lando,
Sabacc.
Millennium Falcon.
You got it, baby.
Look
Exactly.
out.
Well,
Exactly.
that's cool. They teach you how to play that.
They do. And she goes, "Oh, geez, I have to play cards. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to lose." She won. She beat Ashley Eckstein. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were playing Sabacc. It was pretty fun. Matt Martin this is a new version of Sabacc where they've sort of made it a lot simpler based on the ones you can buy on Batu, where it's just about matching a suit and a number, and they have negative cards in there, and you roll dice at the beginning of each hand and try to figure out what you get to. And so we had fun. And she was worried that she was going to have to like recite Star Wars trivia or be the center of attention. Whereas for me, I'm like, hello, where's the spotlight? I love that stuff. She does not like that stuff. But amazingly, I'm telling you, they've created an environment through the way they treat you that everybody feels comfortable. And I feel like that's hard to do in an immersive situation. But as you said, if we can mimic that in our classrooms, then we're really onto something special.
Mm-hmm.
But you just dropped a huge name, so we got to go back to that first.
Oh.
So the Ashley Eckstein reference, Ashley
Yes.
Eckstein being,
Sure.
Ahsoka. Ahsoka was her. Well, she did other things too, though, right? So she's
the voice of Ahsoka forever, but she's also the owner and creator of her universe.
Her universe and everything. Yeah. But what that just made me think of though is that persona, that event, that component, that doesn't sound right, but having somebody brought into your classroom that also adds to the flavor of what you're trying to do. Have you done that? Have you had a lot of people? You've done so much and met so many people. Have you been able to weave in other people into your classroom to make those experiences richer?
I have. Well, the first time I really got to know Ian Desher, who's the author of the William Star Wars Shakespeare books, he actually Skyped into my classroom and he explained I make pentameter to my students, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And then students read different things and wrote things, and he critiqued their poems and gave them suggestions, and that was amazing. And then John Morton, who plays Dak in The Empire Strikes Back, I got to know him through this entire process, and he Skyped into or Zoomed or whatever into one of my classes, and we talked. It was right after The Force Awakens came out, and we talked about symbols and metaphors and themes in the new movie, and he gave some background on what it was like to be in The Empire Strikes Back and in Superman 2 and things like that. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's neat. Yeah. It's, and COVID, that's probably the upside of COVID in a weird way. It introduced us all to Zoom.
Right.
And plus, and we've been able to reach out to people everywhere and bring them into the classroom. So yeah, I hope a lot of teachers have been able to do that.
Oh yeah, it's pretty neat. It's a really cool thing to be able to take. I feel like that's an important thing that this whole COVID thing has taught us, is that, it teaches you to be resilient. And when things happen that are not what you want, you find a way to make it something that you can do. And right. I think that's just important as a parent and as a teacher.
Yeah, taking the worst situations and making the best out of it.
That's right. Yeah. Got some lemonade here.
Others, yeah.
Drop those lemons, COVID. We made lemonade.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the William Shakespeare Star Wars books. I always love using those in the classroom. And I think do you teach British Lit?
I do.
Okay. So, all literature in its sense, you can find some kind of hero's journey, theme. Yes. But British Lit, I feel like it does it for the most. And our listeners love lists. So I kind of gave you a homework assignment, I think, but you could probably do it on the fly. Can you give us some books that you think are great to kind of tie into this hero's journey?
Star Wars or just in general? In
general, it could be anything.
I do. Every book ever written that has a narrative.
Yeah.
Right. Honestly, you can just pull. We actually was just talking about the hero's journey today in one of my mythology classes. The hero with 1,000 faces. Joseph Campbell's. I'm not going to bring that in for my seniors. Although some of them could probably be okay. It's pretty dense. Mm-hmm. But there's some great stuff there. Honestly, one cool thing that's not a book is for the hero's journey is in Avengers Infinity War. Marvel's Avengers Infinity War. That is the hero's journey of Thanos. I want to talk about a mind-blowing experience. But when you look at that through the lens of Joseph Campbell, when you look at Thanos, who doesn't think he's a bad guy, by the way,
Right.
you want to talk
Saving the
about a
world.
fascinating conversation that is had where they try to break down, what's his call to adventure? How does he refuse the call? What is his apotheosis? Things like that. I really like that. And then selfishly, it's not British literature, but my favorite book of all time is Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I think it's a work of absolute genius. Yours too?
Yeah, that's why I became an English teacher. When I read that as a kid, I fell in love with reading. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Mark Twain is an absolute genius. And so there's a hero's journey in that too that we break down. But I mean, literally, one of the things we do, and I think I mentioned this the last time I was on, is I let them pick their own stories and they map out the hero's journey in those individual stories. In fact, somebody just said to me today, "Hey, I just watched Uncharted, Mr. Zehr. It's a pretty cool movie." And I goes, "But guess what? The hero's journey's in that." I said, "No kidding. That's cool." I like that he was thinking about that, right? And metacognitive approach and critical thinking, intellectual honesty. Love that.
That's right. It's hearing you say that about Huckleberry Finn. I was watching a rerun, one of the rerun cables channels, and it was Family Ties was on. And there wasn't. I don't know if you all were watching this back then, but there was an episode that focused on Huckleberry Finn being banned in a school. Yeah, and the one daughter, the Tina Yothers, the blonde. She had to do a book report on it, and she was trying to make a stance. And of course, the parents they were from the '60s. They were very much of the movement point. I was watching it going, wow, this is a great episode. This is it's like contemporary.
Yes.
And in other ways too. So yeah.
Tina Yothers, isn't that her name?
Yes, Tina Yothers.
Yeah, I don't know how I can remember that. I almost said Tracy McGrady. That's definitely not right. I don't know where that came from.
Blast from the past. I used to do Slaughterhouse as well, and that was an interesting one to have students try to figure out because of the timelines are all different.
You know something crazy? I've never read that before.
Oh wow!
I've read Cat's Cradle several times, but I've never read.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting one. That or Catch-22, I always feel like is a good.
Oh sure.
One or the other.
Right. I almost made a joke, Catch-22 joke, but
Kind of lends itself to just be there, right?
Yeah, I know, right? It's perfect.
Yes.
That is a great one. As is Fahrenheit 451.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, what a beautiful book that is.
That is a pretty book. Ooh, look at all the books, Letitia, we're getting in this episode. We like it when it's.
I'm like, can I write these all down?
Please.
Yes.
Or you can listen to the podcast later and just pause it at your leisure.
Yes.
There you go.
I mean, the brilliance doesn't end.
So, and this is unrelated to anything, but to me, the most beautiful book ever written. Actually, I want to know what's the most beautifully written book that you've ever read? Just the way it's written. Not necessarily that you like it or don't like it or the plot, but just the language. The literature is, of course, all about language. We misuse that word all the time, but it's really just language. I'll go first if that helps.
Yes, please.
To me, it's The Great Gatsby.
Well, you scared me for a second because
why?
I was mine's Great Expectations.
Well, that's beautifully written too.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You know what? I fell in love with and I've got it back here. I know this is going to sound so ridiculous. There's certain books.
Is it the Star Wars book?
No, there's certain books of Hemingway's that I get lost in.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Hemingway for right now.
You can't go wrong with him or Charles Dickens or Steinbeck. I mean, you really can't.
Yeah. That's what I have all behind me. You can't see.
Wonderful.
But it's funny too. So reading, I was always a geek techie, so always tinkering and pulling things apart and breaking things and fixing them. But reading Empire Strikes Back.
Donald Glut.
Right. When that came out, that was a
Esquire.
Yes, Esquire. That was one of those books so that I think that stoked a real fire for me to kind of revisit reading.
Sure. Absolutely.
It did something. I had to keep it a secret forever till the movie came out, and it felt like forever. It was only a couple of months, I think, but it was one of those things where I realized how captivating a story can be, in book form.
That's wonderful.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
Pete and Letitia, what are your favorite books more written?
Well, I don't mean to sound like a cornball, but when I discovered the New King James Version of the Bible, I just
Hey.
fell in love. I just think it's beautifully translated. So that's
Amen
my
to that.
pick. Yeah,
Hey, I'd be a cornball all day. I love it.
Nothing wrong with that. For me, classic Pete answer. I have kids all day asking me, what's my favorite music? What's this and that? And I just trained myself so long ago. I have favorites of different kinds. I have a list, but I don't have a top of anything because I feel like when I say that's my favorite, I'm telling my kids 50 other ones are not good or not my favorite. And I've always been mindful of that. So I just change with music and what I'm reading and all. And I have favorites of genres, favorites of types. I have that shelf, but I can't say, ooh, that's my all-time favorite. I'm terrible.
What if we put down a caveat where you're allowed in perpetuity to change it at any moment's notice?
Yeah.
He's not going to answer, is he?
I gotta
think
say Gatsby really, I love Gatsby. That's been a favorite of mine.
That's
And I just saw a stage production of it. And I think that's just on my head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I do love Great Expectations. I love Dickens.
Oh,
He's
that's
amazing.
a good one.
Christmas Carol is actually a gorgeous book.
Oh my gosh.
I read it every Christmas.
Yeah, yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
I do too.
On
Every
Christmas
Christmas
Day.
you read
No,
this?
not like Christmas,
It's on
during
my
the Christmas
Kindle.
season.
Season, right? I figured
I
that.
teach it, so that helps to do it.
Okay.
You know, no,
It sets the tone. Yeah.
it does. It does.
It could be pretty dark.
Oh yeah.
Very.
It
Yes.
should be.
Yes.
It should be.
If you like stories of murder and mayhem, well, it's not really murder, but it's almost a murder of his character.
Right.
Ghosts.
So during the holidays, I go to those two books. I'll read A Christmas Carol. I'll also read. I shared this before. Truman Capote's
And Cold Blood.
Christmas Christmas Memory.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's just a great story. It was actually turned into a made-for-TV movie, I think, but it's a really interesting story, interesting relationship between a young person and an older person who has a mental handicap, and so they kind of get along, and so he's a little boy talking to an adult, but the adult's more like a little boy or a little girl. And they kind of go through the rituals of the holiday, and it's a short read. It's an easy read. I don't know, and I think you know why I got hooked on it. My 8th grade English teacher. It was one of our readings, and it was introduced to us during the holiday season, and it just had all the feels that it pulled in the season. You know, the feels of the season, the sounds, the sights, the smells, and everything. And so that kind of just echoes with me every year. So I always look for it. It's kind of like it's a comfort. It's like comfort food, I guess.
I love it.
Reading. Yeah,
I love it. Whoa, Pete has Castle Grayskull. Whoa, I just saw that. Holy cow, I'm so jealous.
sure
Every
do.
time I'm on the show, you have the coolest stuff.
I should be. And then back here, that's all G1 Transformers
No way.
that my son and I collect every weekend.
Oh, and then you're gonna tell me you have the USS Flag from G.I. Joe. And
I wish I had that. Okay,
Right?
we're totally nerding out.
Sorry.
What
Sorry
is
to derail the whole
happening?
show.
Actually, my computer's on the USS Flag. I use that as my desk.
Wouldn't that be the coolest? Yes, honey. Now I know how I can fit the flag in our house. Pete told me.
Make it furniture.
Yes.
If you can make the nerdy stuff furniture, the wives go for it.
I like it. This is the way.
this is the
As
way.
it should be.
When we do our takeaway, that's going to be mine at the end of the episode. Pete, is it that big?
USS Flag is huge.
7 feet.
Yeah.
Right? 6.5 feet. 7
Wow.
feet.
Yes.
I don't have it. I don't have that. I wish
I don't either.
No.
But Pete
If
and I just
anyone
became
has
best
it, would
friends.
like it
That's
to-
my takeaway.
I hear you, buddy.
Please
That's
donate
awesome.
it to the TPR. He'll take
Yes.
good care of it.
I'll settle for the instructions. I'll take the box. I
Yeah,
just
right.
love the box art. Oh my gosh.
I
the
know.
box art of all those things.
I'm going to have to look
Sorry,
it
Letitia.
up.
What for Castle Grayskull?
Can
Any
somebody
of the
wake
toys from the
Letitia up,
80s.
please?
Any of the toys.
Oh yeah, I would
Box
stare
art.
at those boxes for
Oh,
I would sit in the aisle. I would pull it off the shelf and spin it around and just
Yep.
stare at it.
oh.
So my mother would
box
have to drag me out of the store.
So I'm sure you're all writing down. Let's not invite Dan on again because he'll derail the whole thing.
No, this is great. Letitia and I are cracking up because this is a rare moment for us to see Pete kind of nerd out like this. So this is kind of entertaining. You're
Hey,
welcome anytime, Dan.
Last week was all about sports, so I was kind of quiet. So
oh, I could go there as well.
here we go.
I think would be a better
And
question
so
though is
flexible.
What's a better question is if you notice the figures are staged out in the front as if they're being played with. So it's good.
That was my kid and I at Christmas. They're not.
Nice.
They're reissues. Those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those
Yep.
are the ones you're allowed to play with.
Yeah.
I bought the Manny faces when I kept it in the box because it's such a cool figure.
This is awesome. I really get a kick out of this. And I'm laughing because I'm like, next time Dan comes, I'm going to have like every Yoda under the sun behind me. All the Yodas, just all
Okay.
the Yodas.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
I thought she was gonna,
Cool.
because she put her hands up. I thought she was gonna have the Padme like
Oh yeah.
the
Oh,
big thing
nice.
over her head. That'd be amazing. And if you came on camera like serious face,
I want to see Letitia in some Padme Senate hair. That would rock.
There
she
you
could-
go.
Padme
you could
Senate
really
hair.
pull it off.
Do it.
Look at Fred.
Be like that.
That's
big
awesome.
thing with that
Fred, you wear
wild
it well.
lipstick. Thank
Yeah.
you, sir. I have to wear
Okay.
something. There's not
Oh,
much left
man.
up there.
Lots
I'm
of
just gonna
editing.
get, I'm
Lots
just
of
gonna get a
editing.
t-shirt.
Lots
That's
of
how he
editing.
lost his hair, I think, from wearing all that. Okay, we're getting all over the place, but we can bring
Yes.
it back. I also want to talk a little bit about writing. You have an assignment, I think that you do, and it kind of ties into some of the stuff you've been talking about. Do you have your kids do a movie analysis?
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that assignment?
Yeah, sometimes it takes on a presentation form. Sometimes it's just a writing form. I do several. One of them we just did is we looked at the classic Greek stories of Hercules, and Hercules is, despite what our dear friends at Disney have told us, Hercules was not a good guy. He was a horrible guy, and there are different stories and different versions of why he is or isn't like that. So after we do that, we talk about epics and epic heroes and what that means. And then I show them, it's really hard to find something that they haven't all seen 1,000 times. But there's a Grant Morrison Mac mini series, it's 12 issues long, called All-Star Superman. And the premise of this, and it's actually an animated version of that's on HBO Max now, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The themes are magnificent. But the premise of the story is Superman at the beginning of this, he goes into space to save these astronauts, all set up by Lex Luthor. And because of the way he has his powers, he absorbs too much of the sun, and his body's basically like a living battery. So he's oversaturated, he's overpowered, and he's dying. So Superman is dying. So he's got a certain amount of time, a very small amount of time, to kind of take care of things. And it's all about forgiveness of enemies. It's about love, it's about compassion, it's about sacrifice. And even now when I'm telling you, I have goosebumps because it's just a gorgeous film. But at its core, Superman, when Superman's done well and not done, in this weird DC darkness universe that we're in for the past 10 and a half years, Superman is about social stature and compassion. How do you treat your fellow man? How do you show respect to your elders, to women, to children? What is really important? How do we treat people in this culture? Like as I said, there's a massive thing there about forgiveness too. So we compare him to Hercules. And obviously when it comes to strength, yes, we've got that, but both check the box. When it comes to the social stature and what we learn about a culture through the stories that we love and have withheld the test of time, then again, to me, it's all about the conversation. It's all about the rhetoric and how you're trying to make your point. So they do that. And then I always do one when we do together. Like with the Hero's Journey, we look at the original Star Wars together, but then I open it up for them to pick their own stories, because then they have to read something else. They have to watch something else. They have to think about something else besides what I'm telling them. And then it's not about me telling them what to think. It's me telling them how to think. And then they can just take that and let their imaginations take them anywhere in the galaxy that they want them to.
That's great. And how do you open the door for them to pick what they want to do? Do you have any kind of guardrails or?
Well, I mean, I say it has to be school appropriate. Sometimes they try to put an Adam Sandler film in, and it's not appropriate, it's just dumb.
Yeah.
So come on. Don't get me wrong, I've laughed at Billy Madison plenty of time. But yeah, I try to say it has to be school appropriate. Yeah, right. And it's not something we're going to watch. And you're not going to sit in your desk for 3 days and watch something on your phone. It's like you can do this outside of class. You've already done it. I'm not interested in you showing me that you know how to Google things. I'm interested in you thinking, right? So I set up parameters. I set up the Go Guardian app that we have at our school where they can only look at certain websites throughout the day. And then they have to think about it. And when they're not sure about something, then they have to talk to me and talk to their peers about it and use critical thinking.
Pete, what you think?
A lot. I just love his approach to projects. Grabbing them in, having them in the driver's seat. You're guiding along, but definitely they're in the driver's seat on where it's going to go, but you're kind of looking over where, you're in the helicopter hovering over them, making sure they stay on the road. Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So just like from a nuts and bolts perspective on that assignment, then, so they'll give a summary of the movie if nobody else has seen it, and then they'll take them through and dissect it, or?
No, I try to discourage summaries because I say, ultimately at the end of this, whether you like it or not, it's sort of irrelevant. I mean, I'm assuming you like it because you're spending time with that particular text or film, but it's not a summary. We can watch if we want to. I want you to teach it to us. Because we all know if you want to learn something, you teach it or you write about it. They're doing both. And that is great, because because if you tell them, let's give me a quick summary, what ultimately happens is half of their report or their paper is this long information dump of stuff that isn't really serving this. So again, at the end of the day, the thing that I always care about, the only thing I care about is that they are thinking and they learn that they like to think, because the world will try to teach them what to think and only give them certain perspectives. But if I can help them and encourage them to dust that off and knock that idea away, as Bruce Lee would, then they can embrace the amazing thing that is themselves, and they can think for themselves. And that, I don't care if they ever read another book again. I hope that they do, but I really want them to think and enjoy that process.
Yeah. And I sometimes think doing a film helps them to kind of let go of these thoughts that a lot of times students have of, oh, writing's so formal, right? There's like a fear of like taking whatever is going on in their head that they can say really great, but for some reason, when it's them sitting down and typing it out on a paper, it becomes more serious, more daunting sometimes.
And they get intimidated by it.
Yeah. And so I think by using a film, it's similar. I used to use songs when we get into poetry, let them do that first. And it just seems like, and then all of a sudden it was kind of like a Karate Kid Miyagi thing where I'm like, okay, you just analyze the heck out of that song. And it's a poem. Like, so now here's this one, and give them, what a poet would write that they would think that they wouldn't be able to comprehend, and they can.
I love that. Yeah. That. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that it's really interesting, because like we're dealing, we discuss a lot and we deal with it a lot as something we refer to as writing across the curriculum. So I teach in the tech space, and the writing skills are not as required, if you want to call it that, but we require a form of brevity. So they're still writing, but it's a different style of writing. They're not writing like essay, they're not writing prose or anything like that. So, and sometimes when they come in, that's one of the big things we'll see, is that they're so rigid in their writing style, or they develop that fear. To break them out of it, to kind of go down this path, to realize they're still writing, but of a different style, it's a little daunting sometimes. So we have to kind of coordinate amongst the disciplines. So if they're in a history class and then they come to a tech class and they go back to an English class, we're trying to coordinate amongst the faculty better that these are the things we want to look at, not so much create a standard rubric, but be more mindful of it. And there are other challenges out there too. We have faculty members also from other countries, so that's a whole other layer of challenges. But it's really interesting hearing you say that, because you're setting the right, in my opinion, the right stage for the next level if they decide to go to that next tier. Their writing is a little bit more, they're a little bit broader, the broader view of what they can do.
Because when they start my class, I think some of them have no idea about any of the stuff, which is actually, I kind of like that. I love that. And other kids are like, we're going to watch Star Wars all the time and talk about Superman. And then, so what they don't realize, because this part doesn't make the brochure for whatever reason, is they're doing a lot of reading and they're doing a lot of writing. So I give them, I parse out, like you said earlier, and small things that aren't always necessarily formal. Sometimes they're little short answer stuff. Like, do I use complete sentences? Well, it is a senior level English class. So yes, you do. And so by the end of the semester, I say, so just so you know, if you did everything I asked of you, you wrote 35 pages this semester or whatever. You've read this many pages of stories, of books, of literature. Look at all these things you have done that you didn't think you liked doing. You're still here and you're going to get your high school diploma, right? I like that self-actualization that just kind of comes about that way. But as we all know, sometimes not everyone. I'll tell a really quick story if you don't mind. My style is as I've talked about, I really believe in empowering the students with a guided framework and then letting their intelligence, their creativity run wild. But it's not something, sometimes it's qualitative, sometimes it's quantitative, but I'm an English teacher, right? Quantitative isn't always the soup du jour in my house, in my classroom. And so one time I had a principal, they had to have me go into the principal because no one could fully understand what I did. And they said, but you need to write this stuff down so that when there's a sub for you, if you're not here, people need to teach what you teach, the way you teach it. And I said, I hope they don't. I hope they teach it like themselves. And they didn't like that. And the principal said, you know what? I just don't get it. And I said, I know you don't get it, but that doesn't mean it's not good. And I will stand by that. I don't want anybody to be like me, or I don't want anyone to teach like me. Because I don't think that's fair. One of my favorite teachers ever told me, Daniel, I know we've had a great connection and I'm grateful that I've inspired you, but please don't try to be me. You'll certainly be inspired by different things that other teachers have done. Use them all, but please be yourself. And to me, that's what I want my students to do.
I love that so much, because even writing is a style. I mean, there is something to an academic paper, but you want your students' style, their
voice,
to come through.
Everything in every class, the importance of helping them find their voice is paramount.
Amen.
In every subject, every single episode we've had, every guest, it all comes to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well said, Pete.
That's very true.
Absolutely.
I used to take, when the students would just a thesis statement or transition or whatever, I would try as they would work. And that's the other thing, is you got to keep working on it. You don't just write it and you're done. There's polishing, there's a process. You might go back and change something because your paper went into a different direction. But what I found when I started to post up people's examples of just a sentence or just an amazing paragraph, whatever, first of all, it did great, to the kids' self-esteem, especially the ones who normally don't get recognized. And, oh my gosh, I got recognized for writing. That's not normally me. Yes, your style is beautiful. Let's share this. Someone else that might inspire them to what they could write in their paper, right? That's what you were saying about when subs come in, you want them to be their authentic self. It's the same with the kids, writing style or however they are in their classroom. So you're doing some good modeling there, Dan Z.
Oh, well, thank you. I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I had this interesting thought. Like I don't know enough about what happens in classrooms in Europe or in Asia or other parts of the world, Africa and so on. But that is one thing, like over the past, all of our episodes, as Pete just kind of alluded, like we've heard there's definitely a consistent theme, a consistent thread, and it's wonderful. We know that we have issues, we know we have challenges, that there's no doubt about it, but it's really cool. And Dan, just so you're like, you're setting a really cool high bar, but you're also like part of a great ecosystem, and it is working. And we just need to continue to refine it.
And through conversations like this with like-minded people, like we learn so much more together.
Yes,
we're meant to work and function together.
Yeah. Hey, Fred, you mentioned in your background with STEM and STEAM, sometimes the writing and all of that, the reading, it's best to do cross curriculum. And in my notes, Dan, I've got on here, you've got some things that you do to kind of help support that. You want to share that with us?
With cross curricular, you mean?
With cross curricular and supporting just STEAM and using Star Wars to kind of do all that.
Certainly. Well, every year, before COVID, we have STEAM into Star Wars, where we try to incorporate as much of the building as we can. We make a big day of it. We have live podcasts. The robotics team is included, the theater department, music. the different athletes come in and read different Star Wars books to kids in the community. It's just a great, fun way to embrace all these different sides of technology, or not, well, technology is, but of education in general. And it's great. And I can't take credit that Tom Gross is the librarian at our school, and he's amazing. And he really has spearheaded this thing. And we've worked together to kind of help it to have like a Star Wars focus, because that, of course, is a love language that many of us share. And it's cool. I mean, you could do it with anything, right? But Star Wars, it works out really, really well.
Yeah.
Is that hosted in your school, or is that at a public library?
It's at our school. We take over the whole school. Well, we're not getting kicked out by wrestling or basketball or somebody. But we try to reserve it early enough. That is the thing. Like we use both gyms. There's this massive multi-purpose area that's sometimes our cafeteria. Then some of the local libraries have gotten in on it as well, and it's been really, really great to see it prosper.
Nice.
I love it. And he mentioned music, and not to be going kind of back and forth on some things, but first of all, I want to talk music for a second in film, especially Star Wars. But Pete, I believe this month, the month of March, is it not supporting music in schools
it's
month?
Music in our schools month, and then theater in our schools month.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And I've been posting hot and heavy about it to
Yes.
Oh, cool.
let people know. Yep. But lots and lots.
That's
Get it out
amazing.
there.
Everybody.
So Dan, I'll stick into the Star Wars thing, and I'm just kind of by the seat of my pants asking this, but is there a particular let's stick with Star Wars. It could be anything, film, any of the stuff on Disney Plus, cartoons, whatever. Is there any one in particular that completely stands out to you as far as a soundtrack or score?
Oh gosh, that is a good question. I mean, obviously, if you have John Williams, you don't really go wrong. I think the first season in particular of The Mandalorian is pretty dynamic. And I think that one is really, really exceptional. When you're looking at Rebels and Clone Wars, Kevin Kiner has done more Star Wars music than anyone.
Right.
But I've never really, honestly, the music for the Book of Boba Fett didn't really do much for me. But other than that, I mean, they're all really nice.
And the Mando theme done on 2 different recorders, little plastic flutes, the bane of my existence. So
Really?
before COVID, that's what I would hook the kids on. So, we're gonna do the Mandalorian theme on recorders. No more hot cross buns.
Oh, I love that.
But it was done on what's his first name? The composer, I forgot.
Ludwig.
Oh geez, how could I forget that? But he recorded it in a bathtub or a bathroom or something like that. Yeah. But
Ludwig
and soprano and alto recorder.
Genius.
That's amazing.
Well, John Williams, it's the oxygen of Star Wars. That's
I agree.
It is the oxygen. Yeah.
And completely. And he just turned 90.
Just turned 90. God bless him.
Who's doing? Because I just listened to it, and I'm not good about remembering the names of these musicians and composers. The Kenobi series that's coming out, I heard some of the music to that, and it isn't that
The theme.
The theme, John Williams is doing the theme,
It is
but
John
as
Williams.
far
Okay.
as the rest, no one knows. Well, some people know. Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Fred knows.
I don't.
Letitia knows, but she doesn't care.
That's right. It's
Did
in the
you see
vault.
She started sipping her drink with the straw. She's like, I
Yeah.
can't
I'm just
stay.
gonna watch.
She's
these
watching
videos.
The Real Housewives. She's not even paying attention.
She's binge watching the Mandalorian.
I'm like, where do I start? I'm so overwhelmed.
Well, you love Grogu though. I mean, when right?
Yeah, he's my little guy. I love
Dan,
him.
let's ask you, next 500 episodes of Coffee with Kenobi, where do you see it going? What's the next steps? What are you excited about?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I feel the same now as I did before we recorded our very first show. Like, I don't really have, like, after we went to the solo premiere, and I got to meet George Lucas, and I took my oldest son, and he said to me, well, now you've met George Lucas, you've been to a premiere. That's it, right? Aren't you? You're done, right? Is there anything else you want to do? And I said, I don't know what I want to do next, but I know I'm not there.
Hmm.
You know, I'm just always, this continues to inspire and invigorate me. And it's brought a lot of wonderful blessings to my family. I love one of the main points of the show was not only to give me a voice in fandom, but to give other people a voice in fandom. Because I remember so many times at conventions or at other things, I would offer Star Wars opinions and I felt like I wasn't heard, or I just whatever. And I remember thinking, I don't want people to feel that way. Everybody has got a really cool perspective. I want everybody to have that. So until everybody's sick of hearing people talk about Star Wars, I plan on doing this thing until I don't even remember who Yoda is.
I'll remind you.
Please do.
We'll remind
So yeah, I mean, I remember there's lots of great guests we've got in the future. A lot of great experiences that are certainly coming down the pipe too. There's a lot of fun stuff.
It's not, well, now that it's under the umbrella of Disney, it's gonna keep on going forever. It feels like.
That's
And
right.
I'm
I
fine
hope
with
so.
that.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me too.
Hey, you know what I was going to ask you? You're talking about the music, and I just had to pull it up real quick. Samuel Kim. Have you listened to how he's done some of the? I don't know if they're redos. I don't know what you would call it, Pete, but Star Wars Clone Wars tribute.
Is he a pianist?
He's. I'm not sure what he is. Samuel Kim,
Huh.
and the burying the dead at the near last episode of the Clone Wars. He does
Huh.
a song, and it is emotionally. It's just beautiful. It's moving. It captures what happens in that
The
last.
orchestrator and arranger. Cool. We'll check
Yeah.
him out.
Pick them up.
And I love that track. That's some powerful stuff. You knew on Clone Wars we got something hot going on when you heard the chorus singing. You always knew something was going to go down when you
That's
hear.
true.
Oh!
Ever since Phantom Menace, really.
That's
Well, I
right.
guess in Return of the Jedi too.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Poor Letitia.
She's hanging in there with us.
That's right. I'm a student.
Letitia,
I
do you like my
love
shirt?
it.
Letitia, do you like my shirt?
Right. That's great.
It has nothing to do with my fifth grade
It's got
class.
the
that
blue
it drove me crazy.
snaggletooth and the red.
There you go. That's right. Red snaggletooth. Look out. Nothing to do with the class I had today. Nothing to do with them at all. Just
Mhm.
coincidence.
Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Right.
Dan, this season we're asking our guests a question. It's been really wonderful to hear the different responses. Do you have a teacher, a mentor, a coach, someone from growing up that inspired you, or that you want to give a little shout out to, or maybe just gave a little hint of who you are today?
Oh, yes. And I mentioned earlier, his name is Kelly Keogh. He's actually going to retire this year. He's a history and a geography teacher. And he was I feel like I'm going to get choked up. He was the first teacher where I really thought, this man cares about me. This guy cares about me. And when I was growing up, my parents were divorced and I didn't have a great relationship with my dad. And he was somehow able to, without even like delivering to it, he was just a cool guy. He was nice. I loved his style in the classroom. He made us excited about learning, and he did it in a very powerful way, but a very understated way at the same time. And he would just talk to us outside of class, and everybody loved him, and they still do, because of how he taught, but how he made you feel when you were around him. And I will always treasure him. In fact, I got to tell him, because I didn't start out as a teacher. I worked in insurance for 8 years and I was miserable. And I went back to school for 2.5 years to become an educator because I felt like something was missing from my life. And right when I was about to get my degree in education, I saw him and I thanked him for inspiring me. And he just gave me a big hug. And he said he was proud of me. And I never forgot that.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
Best part of this whole
That's what it's
segment.
about. That's what.
Okay,
It's
so we're going to do our takeaways. So something that you said that we were like, aha, or maybe sparked an idea in us. Sometimes it can be something goofy. Fred, I'm looking at you. And then, of course, you as our guest, Dan, you get to say the kind of the last word. If there's any little last thing you want to say, or if maybe you had an aha moment or a thought tonight. Does that sound good?
Definitely. It sounds great.
Okay. Fred, why don't you go first?
Thanks. The one thing that you said is something that had was a conversation I had that about a couple of weeks ago. But the teach it and write it, not so much for me the write it side, but to do it. And I love that aspect. I love it when you develop a level of mastery when you teach something, and it puts you into that somewhat of a scramble mode, right? If you're a student, you're trying to figure out how do I cover the topic. I think that's just a great reminder for teachers in general, and anybody listening to this who has an educational responsibility. Put the student in that role and let them, experience what it's like to give back. because I think that's the important thing out of it. It allows you to exercise some grace, but it also allows you to exercise that ability to give something of yourself back. And that's what teachers do all the time, right? And that's something that I think if we can instill that in more people, maybe the world would be a little bit better.
I love that.
Great. Letitia?
Oh, I got the giggles tonight. It's terrible. I think what I loved the most was when you said to own your mistakes. Just as a teacher, just owning your mistakes, creating this environment. And I think that our guests have had this kind of theme too. I don't know if you guys are picking up about just being free, having fun, just stop being so serious. And I think you've just so brilliantly taken something that you are so knowledgeable about. I mean, obviously Star Wars, you're like a walking encyclopedia, and your passion for that and teaching is just so beautiful. And so the fact that you're okay with mistakes, the fruit of that is some good stuff. So I hope people are encouraged to just own your mistakes and keep it going.
Thank you. That's very kind.
How about you, Pete?
The importance of meeting those kids at the beginning when they're entering your room. Get ready to play, get ready to have fun, set the tone and reacquaint them with, hey guys, just so you remember, this is a place of safety. This is a place of warmth. This is a place that you should feel free to express yourself, to make mistakes, to grow, and so on. I did that today. I have a pretty rough older group this year. And, we've done a lot of performing. We've done a lot of creating of music, a lot of instrument playing, but I've been putting the music history on the back burner because I tend to lose the kids then. And I was kind of dreading today. I had my lessons all together. And when they walked in and I met them at that door, I just said, I just know what I have prepared for them is not going to fly. And they're going to let me know that too. And I told them, I said, you know what, you guys just talk for a second. I need to regroup. And that was very uncomfortable for me to just, okay, stop, hold it and regroup. And I completely changed the lesson. I said, listen, we're going to talk about composers, but it doesn't have to be all, white dead guys from Europe. It could be a lot of other things. So we started talking, right, Letitia, right? There's a lot more composers out there than both Beethoven and Mozart. But, and I said, so we started making a list together, women composers, composers from Asia, Black composers, Latin composers. And yes, we must respect those other people as well. So much was based upon their work. But then I said, they thought it was going to be a book report or something dry. I said, no, pair up. One of you is going to be the interviewer. The other one's going to be the composer. You have a few weeks. I'm going to give you some questions as guides. You make up your own, but you're going to have to come up with a 5-minute long interview with your composer. And they lit up. Oh, well, Mr. Bush, is John Lennon a composer? I said, of course, go for it.
Man.
Is this one, and we just, and it,
That's
there
awesome.
it was. There was the spark. And I said, okay, good. Because I just knew what I had prepared. It just wasn't going to fly. So feel out your class in the beginning and then have the courage to say to yourself, this isn't going to work. Let's try something new. That's all I could say tonight. So it's good to see you, Dan.
That's great.
Yeah, you too. And I love what you said. That
Yeah,
improvisation. You got to be Tom Brady up there because
That's right.
you never know what the defense is going to come at you.
You never know.
This is true.
I love that, Pete. And that kind of goes with mine. So as you all know, I love to talk about taking risks as a teacher, as an educational leader, allowing space for your students, your colleagues, your staff to feel comfortable in taking risks. So Dan, right out the gate at the beginning, when you said we've got to create an environment where our students can feel safe to take risks and that it's okay to be successful. I thought that was really great. And one of the reasons why I was excited to have you back on, other than just nerding out with you about Star Wars, but so glad that you came on and thanks for reminding us again about creating that environment for our students.
Thank you. I mean, I will say my takeaway is something I don't remember who said it. It's something collectively that we've all agreed upon. I love the idea of working together for common goals, and we are created and designed to prosper as a society, as people, no matter what's different about us or where you're from or what you look like or what you don't look like or what you like or what you don't like. It doesn't matter because we were meant and designed and created to be together and to function together. And then that's when you can create that beautiful music and in whatever field that comes out as.
Well said.
Yeah.
So, Dan, I think you have a book coming out soon. We wanted to make sure that we mentioned it. So it's I Am Your Father, Lessons for Parents, Protectors, and Mentors. I think it's set to come out in May. Can
That's
our
right.
listeners go ahead and pre-order this book and tell us a little bit about it too?
Yeah, so the Star Wars I'm Your Father is a book where Amy Rakow and I, this is the second book we've worked on together. We just take little themes and ideas from the Star Wars universe, animated and video games and films and such, and try to pick out little nuggets or pearls of wisdom that help to inspire us. Again, stories at their core, when they're done well, you can pick out great themes and ideas from them that you can use in your real life. So each entry is a little bit about Star Wars, but it's also about how can you incorporate that as a teacher, as a parent, as a mentor, as a coach. And you can certainly pre-order that on Amazon. My other two books, the Star Wars book and the Star Wars Character Encyclopedia, updated and expanded edition, are available for you anywhere that books are sold, for sure. And if you want to reach out to me individually, I'm on Twitter at Mr. Zehr, MRZEHR. You can find Coffee with Kenobi all over social media, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, and yes, Ballas is heading the sand, TikTok. And if you, let's see where else. Oh, you can find my writing on stars.com. I've got a column that's coming out fairly regularly about different ships in the Star Wars universe. And then if you have a podcast or a blog or want to expand the brand you have, you can reach out to me at danzmedia.com.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
article about the Naboo fighter was really cool.
Oh, cool. Thanks. There's one coming out pretty soon that you're going to like too.
Cool.
Nice. Hey, Pete, where can our TPR crew find us?
Website teacherpeprally.com. We are also on YouTube, Facebook. Fred, we're not on TikTok yet. Fred, come on, Fred.
I know we're working it.
Come
We're
on,
working
Fred.
it.
And
I-
our hotline,
Get the damn
678-439-TPR1. Give us a call. Keep the conversation going. We love your feedback and your comments.
For sure. Well, thank you again, Dan, for coming and joining the conversation. We always look forward to having you on, and we can't wait to talk to you after your 1000th episode of Coffee with Kenobi.
Well, thank you all so much. It's always so inspiring to be with all of you and be with educators that truly love what they do. And I think that needs to be celebrated. Thank you all so much for inspiring me.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.